Hello.
Yes, yes, it is audible.
Yeah, so I was speaking on mute, so I realized I'm speaking on mute. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. In today's discussion, we will be discussing about for else, while else, assertions, and a sample project. As yesterday I mentioned, and this project is a combination of all the previous topics we covered so far. So, as a combination of that, we'll be building a small project. I'm discussing for else and while else now because now you have thorough understanding when else block get executed and exception handling, right? The similar way, it's a functions in the loops also. It's a combination of for else and while else. And we have assertions and we'll do that. For now, let me start with the for else. Everybody familiar, right? What is a for loop and while loop? Let me just show you what is a for loop is. Right? For else, I in range are, you are having a range from 1 to 11. That's it. Simple. We are just building a range from 1 to 10. And let's add a combination. Let's add a combination of for and else. For and else. For I in range of 5. So by default, if you provide 5, okay, and now the range will be printed from 0 to 4, right? Because the default starting value will be 0 and it will be end minus 1. So it will print the value from 0 to 4. And you are printing it, right? Else, just now inform the person. Printing is done for loop for executed without interruptions. See here, what happens? Combination of if condition and else condition. And for loops, in the loops, for loop, while loop. And you have a combination of else also, for else, while else. And the same else block is a combination in your exception handling also. There is a try, except, else, and finally block. The same else is used in 3 places. This else is used in 3 places, right? What is the first place? In if conditions. In if conditions. When it get executed, if your condition fails, in if your condition fails in this one, right? Then else block get executed, correct? And there is a second thing in exceptions, no exceptions, no exceptions in right block, then else block get executed. Any exceptions, you cannot execute, right? And the last one, loops. If no interruptions, if no interruptions in loop, then this will execute. You understand these two statements. I believe you know how it happens. Okay, so let me show you the examples of this. I'm giving an example of a small one, a for loop and else block, right? What is happening? No interruptions. So print is no, it is printing 5 times within the range. So now else block it executed. For example, let me change a small condition. Let me keep a small condition. If I equal to 4, okay? If I equal to 4, and I'm doing a break statement here. I'm doing a break statement. Now it will print 0, 1, 2, 3 when it is in the last iteration. In the last iteration, 4, 4 equal to 4. Now loop gets break. Loop gets break. See what happens. Loop gets break and automatically the else block is not executed. If no interruptions in the loop, no interruptions in the loop, then only your else block will get executed. Got it?
Can you explain this one once again for I in range? If I equal to 4, then break that thing.
Yeah. So we have a conditional statements, right? This is a conditional statement. This is a if block. And this
Yeah.
is a jumping statements, which is
Mm.
break and continue.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
saying if your if condition, this is a for loop is there, right?
Mm.
In this thing, if there is an interruption, I'm breaking this loop. Now loop is
Ah,
breaked. Since you are
okay.
breaking the loop, else block will not get executed.
Okay. Okay. So
If
if
you
the first is executed only, then else will.
yeah,
Mm.
see for example, I remove this. I
Mm.
commented out. Let me remove it. Okay.
Mm.
Now I don't have. I'm not breaking it, right? Loop.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll execute it, and else block it.
Okay.
But if you are breaking it, and it's not. It's like this. You know, honeybees, right? Honeys.
Mm. Mm.
If you are disturb them, then only that will break it,
Mm. Oh.
right? If you disturb them, then else block will not get executed.
Oh. Mm. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The same thing which happens in the while else also. That's it.
Okay.
Let me show you the example of while else, how it happens. For example, I'm taking counter, same thing, same as a for loop, and I'm doing in the while loop. While loop, count should be less than 5. Then print count. And every time count has to be incremented by 1. Then count. That's it. So what happens? You printed count. Now let me add while else for the same thing. Let me add while else. But once you break it, if you break my while loop, then automatically I'll not get executed. So that is the else block. Let's just take this one. Let me put say break one. Let's put same thing. Okay. It will come 0. It will print 0. Then count got 1. Then it will check 1 equal to 3. No. So it will not break it. They continue again. 2. Like that it will happen. Got it? Else block will not get executed if there is any interruptions in your try block. While loop, sorry. I'm still an exception. That is all you have to remember. If there should not be any interruptions in your while no in a loop iterations. Once you interrupt me, I'll just break it. Then your else block will not get executed. For example, what I'm doing is I'm just continuing it. I'm just continuing. What happened? Continue. Is it breaking your loop? Continue will not break your loop. It will just skip that one iteration. That's it. Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So continue will not break it. If you are breaking your loop, then only your else block will not get executed. Let's put the same thing in them. Let's put the same thing in a function. So we'll get first Outside, if you don't have a function, you cannot have a return statement. So return from. Okay. Let's call this commercial. Is my else block got printed?
Mm.
Yeah. Always remember, when your else block get executed means there shouldn't be any interruptions. What is interrupting here is
Mm.
when the count is matching to 3, you are just returning it. So while loop is not completed with iterations. Got it? Even in the for loop also, if you complete that complete iterations, you let it complete with all the loops. Let it iterate all the number of times you want to iterate. Then your else block will execute. Got it? But in between, you stop me with a return block, with a return keyword, or either with the break statement, then your else block will not get executed. Got it? So if there is no interruptions in your loop, then only it will get executed. If only break or return, then it will not get executed. Just read these 3 lines, then you will understand else. This is the only language which I have seen where else has been used in multiple places. In other programming language, they just use else in only if conditions, only conditional checks. But this is where they are having multiple things. Just read these 3 statements. I'll pause it for a minute.
Yes.
Thank you. So with that, we are done with the else. Now let me start with assertions. Assertions will play a very vital role. When you are testing the applications. When you are testing the application. This testing either done by developer, either by tester, you always need assertions. You always need assertions. If it is failed, you can write an assertion limits. Most commonly, we use assertions while doing the writing the test cases in the PyTest or unit test or any Selenium test cases and all. But as a developer, we do write unit test cases. So you should be knowing that. Got it? For example, to validate. Normally, what do you do in the if conditions? Condition statement as if, right? What you do? You compare the things. Once it is validated, you are just executing the piece of block, right? Yes, if condition is there. This is true. If this is true, what you do? You print this block statement one, print statement. That's it. Now by default it is true, it is printing it up. Got it? What I'm doing, what I want is if this condition fails, I want to raise an exception. If condition fails, want to raise an exception. Let me show you. For example, if the same thing, let's modify this one. If 5 is less than 6, right? 5 is less than 6. This condition is true. And it gets printed. Got it? Now let's reverse this. 6 and 5. 6 is less than 5. You always remember the mouth which is open, that should be a larger one. So that is what a less than means. If you have difficulty to understand less than and greater than. And this smaller one, the mouth which is closed, right? That should be a smaller one. 6 is smaller. No, right? 6 is bigger than 5. Got it? Even I discussed the same thing, when we are discussing operators. If it's a bigger one, you should have a mouth, you can open it, you can talk. If it's a smaller one, you should keep quiet. If I execute this, there is no in the statements. Got it? What I want is, if my condition fails, I want to raise an exception. I want to do such kind of validations. I want to do whether the condition fails, automatically I want to raise an exception. See here what else. But that use the keyword assert. Use the keyword assert. Assert 5 less than 6. Condition true. Condition true. No problem. Assert 6 less than 5. Condition failed. I'll raise an exception. The condition what you have given, this is failed. So I'm raising an exception. Which is the exception? Assertion. This is we most commonly compare the things and the test cases right, because your test cases gets failed. Here what you are doing is, you are just doing a conditional check. You are not raising an exception. If you are raising an exception, then only your test will be failed. Otherwise, it just executes it. Okay, this condition is not satisfied, right? Okay, that's fine. See here, I don't have any problem. It gave me the green mark. Okay. If you are coming from a testing background, when you are having green mark means test is passed. When you are having a red mark means test is failed. But here, it is giving you green mark, which means the test is passed, even though condition is failed. But you don't want to be passed, right? If condition failed, let the test case should be failed. That's what it is doing with the assertions. This condition is failed, so the test case has to be failed. So this is the advantage which you have on assertions. Even you can do the many number of things. For example, assert. I'm comparing, I'm checking the palindrome number. So it's a madam is a palindrome. I'm comparing it. You just use any operators. Okay. Here, just take that string. You're comparing with this string. How you do your reverse of string? It's slicing. String, colon, minus 1. See here. But if I change it, let me change the string. This time string is teacher. So madam inside. Copy this. So if you reverse it, RIS. So it's not the string. Normally you do assertions for validations. As long as validation is success, so this will not raise any exceptions. Got it? If you want to raise an exception, if this condition failed, then you go and use assertions.
I want to understand again.
Which one?
On the second one, yeah, 16 one. Why that error? I was not there in the time. This one only. Yeah, this one.
See here, what happens is, you are doing a string reverse here. You are doing a string reverse with the this one. It's just what is the string you are having? It's a set. Right? Let's just use the slicing. Once you do a slicing, you are just reversing a string. It becomes RIS.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you're comparing a string, SIR, RIS, both are same.
No.
See, for example, let me show you the madam example. This is a palindrome, right?
Yeah, this is a palindrome.
MADAM. If you reverse it, you'll get the same string, same word.
Yeah.
But if you reverse assert, do you get the same string?
No.
So that is the reason it is valid. You can give anything, man. See, for example, I want
No,
to
no. Why
check
we use assert in this case?
assertions for validations. For example,
Oh,
what you do with
okay.
if condition, when you're doing if condition, you check the condition, if condition satisfied, and you will execute that block of code, correct? We use
Yeah.
assertions if this condition failed. Let me raise an exception.
Okay.
Okay, so in the case of here, in this condition is failed. So this block is not getting executed, but still it is passing. I have mentioned, right? We use assertions in the test cases writing.
Okay. Yeah.
Got it?
Mhm.
If this test case is failing, automatically a exception has to be raised. Otherwise, it is just pass the test case. That's not an expected behavior. If this condition failed, you should raise an exception. How you
Yes.
can
Yes.
raise
Yeah.
an exception in such cases? Then in this case, you have to put what else condition, else block, then raise the exception. Raise some exceptions like value error or something. Okay, you have to create your own exception for it. All those things, but you don't need all those things. Python is giving you one opportunity, that is assert.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
We can give any number of examples. Let's take one more example also. Okay, so assert, there is a string. Okay, I in str. Do you know membership operator? You are checking a character whether it is there in this word or not. I'm checking I. Is I is there in a assert? Yes, it is there. So no assertions. Simply passed, right? So this will make sure your test cases are working fine or not.
Oh,
Let's
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So here you can take any number of examples. You just use operators. Assertions means you are just using mostly operators validation. Here I'm check Z. Z is there in assert? No, you'll get an error. Which is assertion error. This is an exception you are getting. Assertion error is an exception. If you want to handle it, you can handle that. You take this one, or you can handle an exception, put it in, try and accept the block.
Yeah. For this, we can use exception. Try and
Yeah.
accept. Yeah.
Yeah. Just do assertion error. If you get an assertion error, print that assertion error. Or error. And you can validate, no? See here, what error? Earlier case, since you handle the exception, you are getting this message. Okay, let's try this. Limitation of some string comparison. Yeah, so here you are getting this message, right? This message you will get it. If you put it in aliasing. Set the value like that. Into that message. I don't want to give any other messages. Let whatever the exception is giving, this will print this one. If you really get an exception, only that will be printed. I don't want to give any other. Same thing. You just use this alias.